Our top story this hour, Andy Burnham has replaced Keir Starmer as head of Britain's Labour Party. He's expected to formally become the UK's next Prime Minister on Monday, making him the seventh person to hold that job in just 10 years. In remarks after being appointed, the party leader said he plans to give hope back to the British people and end the political infighting. We'll be discussing more of his speech with our own senior reporter, Clovis Casali, and our guest, Paul Richards, a former Labour special advisor and columnist. So, Clovis, what were your key takeaways from his remarks?
I think Andy Burnham made it very clear that he wants a change of direction. He wants to take a left-wing turn. What does that mean? Well, he says that politics in the past failed the ordinary people, politicians failed to have the courage to fix the big things. Those are the words he used. He also wants to undo the Margaret Thatcher strategy. For our viewers who might not know who Margaret Thatcher is, she's an icon of the right wing in the UK, of the Conservatives. She led privatisations, took on the mining sector. And for Andy Burnham, that is an important point also. He is dubbed the King of the North. And the North was particularly affected by Margaret Thatcher. He wants to change that. He wants a U-turn, if you will, but at least a clear break with what he calls neoliberalism in terms of economics. In other words, the market can't regulate itself. The government, the state needs to intervene, and that's very important for Andy Burnham. We might be able to listen to a clip from his speech. Andy Burnham saying that politicians failed the ordinary people, but also that he wants real change, and the real change will come with him, Andy Burnham, who's not yet Prime Minister for the time being. He's only leader of the Labour Party as of now, but on Monday he will take over from Keir Starmer. Here's Andy Burnham speaking at this special conference in central London of the Labour Party.
Change starts with honesty. We must recognise that this generation of politicians, myself included, have failed to challenge a political culture and an economic model that simply doesn't work well enough for ordinary people. 4 decades of the neoliberalism that began in the 1980s have not been kind to the places that built our party, nor to the communities across the UK in rural and coastal areas.
Okay, I want to bring in our guest now, Paul Richards, who's a former advisor to the Labour Party and a columnist. So we've been discussing the remarks from the speech that Burnham gave after being appointed the new Labour Party leader. One thing that struck out for me is he used hope a lot of times, sort of reminding me, thinking of U.S. politics and former President Barack Obama and the audacity of hope. What stood out for you in his remarks?
Well, I think that's right. He's learned from the experience of Keir Starmer's first few weeks in office, where they seemed to drag everyone into a terrible depression by describing how awful everything was and how dire the situation economically was, and sort of this doom spiral took us over. And Andy Burnham has decided to approach the task of the first few hours entirely differently, which is to offer a sense of hope. And now we know, don't we, that that's easier to say than it is to do. But he has started to map out a policy direction. I'm going to pick up Clovis's point about a lurch to the left, though. I think there are elements that will be more left-wing and interventionist, but there may be other elements that perhaps might be more traditionally associated with the right. I think he's going to be very tough on immigration, for example, and will pursue the immigration policies of the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, which are, getting denounced by the Liberal left in the UK. So I think he'll triangulate between left and right in order to try and make the sort of change which, as he says, has to come to people's pockets and to their high streets and to be actually felt. Otherwise, we're going to get into another cycle, I'm afraid, in the UK, where we have a prime minister for a year or two and then another one in 2 years' time. So he's trying to avoid that fate as well.
Hi, Paul. This is Clovis. I have a question for you. You know the Labour Party extremely well. Andy Burnham lost two Labour Party leadership contests in 2010, 2015. What made the difference this time? And do you think that Labour MPs actually are really behind him? What has made the difference? And do you think he has a strong mandate here?
Well, that's a very good question because he's presented himself, hasn't he? Andy Burnham, who I've known for 30 odd years, has presented himself as an outsider, riding over the hill like the cavalry to save the situation. But of course, as you say, he has been around a long time. It's his third go lucky in terms of the leadership, having failed dismally two times in the past. And what's changed is his experience of being a mayor of a major city, Manchester. And in the UK situation, we've never had that trajectory before from city mayor to then coming into government as prime minister. I know it's common in other places, notably France, of course, but we don't have that system here. So his double experience of both Westminster and being in the British cabinet, then coupled with this experience of running a city and making change at that regional level, gives him a sort of really good combination of experiences, I think, that can appeal to people. And all the polling suggests that because he has had that outsider, insider sort of experience, he's very popular with the public. Now, your question about MPs, some of the MPs, of course, know him. Most of the new MPs elected in 2024 never served with him, so they don't know him in quite the same way. But I think they can recognise a winner, and I think they recognise somebody perhaps who can help them win their seats when the election comes next year or the year after, and will get them over the line. So there is a little bit of self-interest, I suspect, in the hearts of many of the members of Parliament who've nominated him. It's not just a personal attachment, but actually their own futures they might be thinking of as well. And by the way, nothing wrong with that. That's what politics is all about. So you have to be a little bit cynical sometimes, I think.
Now, I want to pick up on what Paul said, sort of how Andy's been presenting himself as a bit of an outsider in all of this. You had mentioned, he's got this Game of Thrones reference nickname, King of the North. So why is all of this so important for him to highlight his origins?
Well, first, let's talk a bit about Andy Burnham. He was born just outside of Liverpool. He was mayor of Greater Manchester, as Paul was just mentioning. Indeed, it's important because there's a feeling in large parts of the UK that there's too much power in London, economically, politically speaking, that the North, for instance, has been abandoned in the past, that there hasn't been enough investment. People now do feel let down by politicians, and in large parts of the UK. I was recently in Lancashire. I've been to Birmingham recently also. You do have this sense that why is everything happening in London? Why are people focusing on London? Why is all the money there? That needs to change. And that's why also Andy Burnham is stressing the importance of decentralisation, of not putting everything into London. And he's even mentioned a very symbolic move in recent days. He said he wants to set up a second 10 Downing Street, if you will, in Manchester this time, just to show that the power isn't just in London. So that's why also Andy Burnham is doing all of this, and that's how he wants to bring about hope. Worth pointing out, this speech was in London, but he's planning to go south this afternoon to give another speech. And he said it at the party conference minutes ago that we were following on France 24. He won't be just representing the North, even though the North gave him everything, he said. He will be representing the North, the West, the East, the South, but also Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Now, Paul, I want to bring you back in because something you've both touched on is decentralization. That's something that Andy had been talking about quite a bit, and as a champion of the common man as well, and pointing to his experience as mayor. Is his goal to decentralize the government achievable? Because this isn't something that's really been tried before.
Well, I think it's interesting that we often, on sort of political scientists and commentators, often look at things through left-right axis. But within the Labour Party in the UK, there was another axis, which is from the centralisers versus the decentralisers. He was nominated by many different organisations, but one of them was the Cooperative Party, which is a party within Labour which advocates local control, local autonomy, co-op models, mutual models, and pushing power away from the centre. And I think there's a lot in that. Clovis talks about the nature of our system here is that so much of the economic, social, and political power is sucked into London and the wider southeast. So when he talks about east, west, south, and north, it's a bigger thing than mere rhetoric. It is actually a political point. He also mentioned, by the way, rural, and somebody sitting in a coastal town right now. He also mentioned coastal as well. So it's not just north versus south. Now, your question, is it practicable? Well, yes, the symbol of having sort of a part-time number 10 operation in Manchester may be symbolic, but if he can then succeed in pushing power out to the town halls, to the regions and the cities like he achieved in Manchester, then that will be a seismic shift and a genuine legacy for his government. His ultimate goal, he said, is good growth in every postcode. In other words, every neighbourhood getting some of the economic benefits of growth. And that's the thing he'll be tested on. But devolution is one of the ways, alongside investment, that you can achievement. So I think he'll start, next week. I think this will start as soon as he becomes Prime Minister on Monday. He will kiss hands with His Majesty the King and become the King's First Minister on Monday. And on Tuesday, he'll appoint a government, and then you'll start to see the change.
Now, Clovis, as we look ahead a bit to Monday, when he actually does officially become the Prime Minister, can we expect a different type of leadership between Starmer and Burnham?
Well, certainly in style. Keir Starmer had to go, according to Labour MPs. Why? Because of his communication, largely. A lot of people said the message might be good, but he's not conveying it in the right way. People are not understanding what we're trying to do. Andy Burnham is believed to be very different. He's dubbed as the perfect communicator, the man who can really get the right message across. Even though, as Paul was saying, this is someone who lost two leadership party battles in the past. This is someone who's not new to politics. It's someone who's he was shortly a journalist, a short spell as a journalist, and then he went on to become a political advisor for various Labour figures. Andy Burnham, clearly is trying to change the style. For one, I know it's just communication, but even the way he comes across, casual clothing, often wearing a polo, just normal shoes, a casual outfit, very different from Keir Starmer. And interesting to see that last night, Andy Burnham published a video on his social media where he just illustrated all that I just said. Basically, he's trying to change communication at 10 Downing Street. He wants a new style, and you're going to see in this video, we got for you a clip of what he filmed in Cardiff in the city centre. Take a look and just listen to the music, because you might recognise New Order, big band from the 80s from Manchester. Take a look.
When I said I was going to do politics differently, I meant it. So here I am in the middle of Cardiff for an in-person Ask Me Anything.
Everyone at me. 3, 2, 1.
I work in the council. I work with homeless people. The big thing that we're constantly confronted with is basically the crisis in affordable housing.
Yeah.
I've heard you've done a lot of things in Manchester. Do you have a plan?
The simple answer is the biggest council house building programme since the post-war period. My dad's got Alzheimer's, so I've kind of become very familiar with the English social care situation from a family, personal point of view. If there's one area that I'm going to expend quite a lot of political capital, it's going to be on social care.
Very different kind of video. I have a last question for Paul. I'm sure a lot of people in the UK, if not all the people in the UK, and certainly in the Labour Party, will hope that with Andy Burnham, it's not just style, it's also substance. What I'm interested in, economically speaking, he touched upon it during his speech, Andy Burnham. He talked about Merseyside, the train system there, and a partial takeover. Do you think that nationalisation in the train sector, for instance, is something that could happen in the near future with Andy Burnham? Because that's something we talk about a lot in the UK. Bad trains, the necessity maybe to take back control when it comes to railway.
Well, he was talking there about Merseyrail, and that's going to be taken over by the regional authority rather than the government. And the rail franchises in the UK are coming up, and as they do, they're being taken into state control. But I think he will explore some of these very localised models for buses and railways and other transport as well. Your point about the music is well made. I think we're going to hear a lot of the Manchester bands over the next few years. We're going to hear a lot of the Smiths and New Order and Stone Roses, and somebody will be writing a book about that any minute now, I'm sure. That symbiosis. It's an example of what you were saying there, a change of tone and style. He's far more relaxed in his own skin. He knows what he likes. He's willing to support his football team, his local rugby team. He knows what bands he likes, what clothes he likes to wear. It's not concocted. It's not, nobody has done a focus group on what tie he should wear. He's just himself, and he's comfortable now, I think, in that persona. Something else, big difference, I saw him during the week. Hello, Paul, he said. He remembers people's names. He knows who we are. He name-checked a leader of the Labour Party, Neil Kinnock, who was a leader in the 1980s, who he said, he was inspired by as a young man. He's one of us. He's one of us. And in a way that Keir Starmer was somebody from the legal system who came into politics, Andy is somebody who's always been in politics. And so I think that empathy and that sort of friendliness, I think, will come across, and the public will see that too. So you can tell from my voice, I am enthused, and I've been around a long time, seen lots of Labour leaders come and go. But
Well,
I get with
Paul,
Andy Burnham, I think there is an opportunity of hope here.
If Andy Burnham, Paul, calls you to come and work a bit closely to him at 10 Downing Street, feel free to stay in contact with us and give us little info from time to time.
Yes, well, if that was true, I wouldn't be announcing it now. But I mean, I will help in any way I can. And I think he's got a lot of goodwill from people like me who do want him to succeed. And I think also from his political enemies too. I was saying to a Conservative MP in Westminster this week, they said, we want him to succeed because we don't want the turmoil and the chaos and all the financial difficulties of yet another failed Prime Minister. And I think there's something in that. We do need a bit of stability now, regardless of whether you're Labour or not.
Paul, I just want to ask one final question here, changing gears slightly. Keir Starmer was in Ukraine. He's been a staunch supporter of all of that. Can we expect Burnham to continue that policy, or does he have a different foreign policy regarding Ukraine?
No, I think you'll see him absolutely as strong as Keir Starmer, awarded the highest award by Zelensky this week. You'll have seen. He also, of course, Sir Keir Starmer being awarded the Légion d'honneur, which we're very proud of as a reflection of his internationalism. And I think Andy Burnham will learn from that. I mean, that's a point for Andy Burnham. He does need to start spelling out some of this international policy, because we haven't had that from him so far. On the other hand, next week he'll be the Prime Minister, and there will be plenty of opportunities for him to be making clear our commitment to NATO, to Ukraine, to broader internationalism, and our partnership with our European friends as well. So he's got all of that still to do, but you're not going to see a major policy shift away from that level of commitment, I think. And I suspect one of his very early visits in the next few days will be Ukraine.